Welcome to Press Hour on CRTV. I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka in Yaoundé. Some time ago, MTN was fined by the Nigerian Communications Commission, the NCC, for failing to disconnect 5.2 million subscribers. It was part of a crackdown against unregistered SIM cards, which the Nigerian government said were being used by the terrorist organization Boko Haram. MTN was asked to pay $5.2 billion. Cameroon has been asking mobile phone companies to register all subscribers in a bid to know who is who and to crack down on crime. It is also a means to check money laundering and counter terrorism financing as a global security and integrity initiative. In spite of these initiatives, financing of terrorism is still a problem in the world and troubled hotspots, including Cameroon. How comes it that money leaves destination A to B without trace? That kidnappers ask ransom to be paid through mobile money transfers, yet it is difficult to trace the culprits. How does money leave separatist sponsors in Europe and America to the bushes of the northwest and southwest regions? As several international meetings were held this week in Douala and Yaoundé to examine the impacts of money laundering and terrorism funding, we of Press Hour thought it wise to continue the debate here. We are Ivor Babila Nyamte, who is digital forensic of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigations Professionals. Ivor, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Edwin. It's good to be here.
We also have Amende Blaise Atabong, freelance reporter and editor. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good afternoon, Moki. It's my pleasure to be on set again.
Lambert Kevin is a former reporter of Canal 2 International. He was based in Kumbu. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Moki, for inviting me.
Baka Enes is a barrister, solicitor, and member of the Cameroon Bar Association. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, Edwin. I'm happy to be here.
To set the ball rolling, here is Emanuela Vemnui with what the newspapers reported during the week.
As Cameroon intensifies preparations ahead of the biggest football event in the continent, so too are newspapers keeping their readers on the know every step of the way. Cameroon's AFCON 2021 hosting rights now a done deal in Cameroon Insider, as a framework agreement to this effect is signed between COCAN and CAF officials, thus certifying Cameroon to be ready for AFCON 2021 in the median, especially as Ferdinand Gongo's inspection mission confirms ready infrastructure in the reporter. Even though the Post newspaper says Ngongo silently observed AFCON infrastructure in Boya and Limbe, the Guardian Post sees Ngongo's fact-finding mission confirming Cameroon's readiness for AFCON 2021. An inspection mission ordered by the President of the Republic in the horizon, which confirms that it is Bia's ocular proof that Cameroon is ready, as the final report of the inspection mission is on the head of state's table in municipal updates, thereby clearing all doubt on Cameroon's hosting ability in Cameroon Tribune. The security situation in the northwest-southwest remains worrisome as PCC witnesses another horror in God's house. In the reporter, suspected separatists dare God abduct servant in God's house in the Star. To the Guardian Post, Amber fighters kill old PCC Mezam Presbytery chairlady in church. Just when more than 20 separatist fighters are said to have been killed, a search for General No Pity intensifies in the reporter. One of such is presented in the horizon as General Trouble killed in Dub Market Square, sparking jubilation from the population in the Guardian Post. But the worry of the Post is on the judge who threatens lawyers for defending detained pregnant woman in Boya, said to be the ex-girlfriend of General No Pity, before an Amber suspect arrested in Nigeria admits to conveying arms into Cameroon in the median. Just when Cameroonian soldiers chase enemies into Nigeria in the Voice, Ambazonian Governing Council meet Swiss envoy on ending the Anglophone crisis in the Post. The same paper expresses worry over Babaju Bamenda Road, questioning, is government not committing same error as Sergio Satom's inability? The paper thinks the roadworks should be given to the military engineering corps, like the case in Boko Haram affected areas, and not a civilian contractor. Then the Southwest Regional Assembly spoils IDPs with gifts in the Scoop newspaper, just when IDPs decry living conditions in Yaoundé in the post-weekender. The Guardian Post thinks it is time for the IDP Anglophone elite to return home. At a time, UN earmarks over 2.8 billion CFA francs for humanitarian aid to the Northwest-Southwest in the Reporter. Kumba then salutes presidential reconstruction plan in Cameroon Tribune as the plan is welcomed by the population in the horizon who equally received farm inputs whose beneficiaries are said to have auctioned the donated items in markets in the Guardian Post. Brazil then explores investment opportunities in Cameroon Tribune. Trade Minister launches promotional sales as festive season approaches in Cameroon Insider, just when severe health disaster looms in Yaoundé and Douala as tons of household refuse piles up on streets. In the Guardian Post, journalists fine-tune code to end hate speech in Cameroon. Let's now end our press review with a story in the Guardian Post where irate youth barricaded road as teenager falls off broken bridge and drowns in Ponkasi, Makepe Misoke in Douala. The angry youth blocked the entrance to the neighborhood, calling on the authorities to construct a new bridge over the river. The mayor of the Douala 5 municipality who visited the area said feasibility studies will start soon, but emphasized work may only begin in February 2022. The irate population wondered why human life must always be lost and people protest before simple developmental endeavors like constructing a bridge in a neighborhood is realized. Until I come your way again, this is your hour with the press.
Thanks, Emanuela. Now, gentlemen, let's comment on what Emanuela reviewed that newspapers reported during the week. And let's start with the newsmen here. Aminde, what caught your attention out there?
I think what particularly caught my attention on the news this week was the aspect of the waste disposal company putting down their tools, and there was litter all over the city of Yaoundé. I passed through Tantam and I realized that the trash can that was there had been filled to its brim and the whole part of the road was blocked. And this actually pricked my mind because I feel like we do have a lot of potentials when it comes to recycling waste, which is something which is neglected because even the waste disposal company just carry the discard and there's no recycling. So we start thinking along those lines.
Okay. Lambert?
Thank you very much, Moki. Once again, what caught my attention is the case of that lady who is being incarcerated, and it's like the judge is being something of that sort. They don't want, they have not known her whereabouts. She is pregnant. We should know how he is faring. We should know. You don't lock up a pregnant lady and you don't want anybody to know what is happening. So that is exactly what is really.
You mean the lady in the Southwest region?
That's right. Who
said to be the girlfriend to General
Yes, and who knows whether he was really the girlfriend. I don't want to put any blame on anybody, but at least let the judge see the lady for us to know exactly whether the lady is still alive or not and how the unborn baby is faring.
Okay, thank you. Barrister, Baka Ernest. Thank you. What caught your attention?
Yes, the same issue Mr. Kevin just talked about. The title that I found there, lawyers intimidated by a judge. I found it interesting that a judge should intimidate lawyers doing their work. And, in every society, the only resort that people have when everything has been taken away from them is the lawyer. We've been told a story of this dictator who hated lawyers so much, but when he was finally arrested, he called for a lawyer. So I think that lawyers don't take position in issues. They just struggle to use the law and defend for the good of society. So lawyers should be given opportunity to do just their work. Thank you.
If I thought he's doing their work, because some of them have said to be doing certain things. You remember the case in Douala where they were bullied out of the court, allegedly because of their involvement in some malpractices.
Well, that still remains a suspicion that was not proven, And it goes back to buttress what has just been said, the continuous fight between lawyers and those who administer justice in our society, whose hands are usually not very clean. So you can understand.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Ivo, what caught your attention?
Okay, Edwin, I will come back again to the press review to say it is important, as you could see, that we focus on the conditions of the IDPs that rush out of the southwest and the northwest regions to come to Yaoundé and Douala. It's very important that we find out what are the conditions and how do they live, how do they feed, because some of them just rush out and come, there is no job. That causes another insecurity in some of these areas. So,
okay, that was it about the comments from what was reviewed. Let's move now to the first topic we have for discussion, and it is terrorism funding or illicit financial flows. Are separatists outsmarting legislation and norms? Before then, I'm starting with you, Ivor. When you talk of terrorism funding and illicit financial flows, since you're a member of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals, when you use these words, what do you mean?
Okay, Edwin, I would like to bring out again what is forensic. Is the use of science to help in crime scenes.
I think I asked you what terrorism funding.
No, I want to clarify you.
Okay.
Yes. So when we talk of terrorism funding, you need to decide or arrange your question if it is funding to terrorism or it is a creation of fund by terrorists. Now,
both.
Good. That's why I wanted to clarify that. Now, as a scientist and as a forensic, I will not just jump to say, excuse me, yes, it is being done that way. All forensic scientists must focus on investigations, data analysis, to come out with a clear result of all questions that are being asked, like what you just said.
So, have you done any investigation concerning funding of terrorists, either them raising funds or using the funds to fund the activities?
I'm very comfortable with this question. You see, the truth about forensic is we are an international body and a private body at the same time. So what we do is we respond to requests. This question could be a request by the government. We want to know how terrorism is being funded. We want to know how money moved from point A, as you said at the beginning, to point B. Now, us as the forensic experts, we will engage into investigations.
You're very useful during part 2 to tell us how you can investigate. But
Thank you very much.
Barrister, what do you understand by these terms of talking about terrorism funding, illicit financial flows?
Now, terrorism first. I want us to have a definition of terrorism. You know, we have a UN panel that met on the 17th of March 2005 and came out with a definition of terrorism, which is an act intended to cause death or serious bodily harm to civilians or non-combatants with the purpose of intimidating a population or compelling a government or an international organization to do or abstain from doing any act. Now, talking about funding, if we have that definition, now we get to funding. You want to think about money raised to give these terrorist organizations to acquire weapons, to sustain their livelihood in course of their activities. You know, and internationally, terrorism and funding refers to this kind of bulk and heavy funding that has to do with corporations, established international multinationals that can send in heavy money with equipment to support a terrorist organization. And so an illicit flows of resources or finances goes in that same line with taking the money to throw, for example, a company getting in money or weapons to finance the terrorists.
What is this?
And when you look at a case like Al-Qaeda, you want to see a well-structured corporation or organization that sends money to them, either through a kind of a means of hiding the weapons or money through their equipments or through their businesses without the government tracing.
Mm-hmm. What's been the situation like in Cameroon? I know you are an investigative reporter too, Aminde Blaise, as concerns Boko Haram in the far north, and especially the separatist crisis in Northwest and Southwest region.
Yeah, Moki, I think there was a report by the Ministry of Finance recently, which talked of the report focused on the national risk assessment for money laundering and terrorism financing, and it's explained in that report that between 2014 and 2018, 160 billion CFA funds was actually laundered or maybe used to finance terrorist activities in Cameroon. We're talking about Boko Haram and the Anglophone crisis. In my course of reporting on the Anglophone crisis, I've realized that the armed separatist groups are using multiple sources of funding, and one of them is the use of cryptocurrency. Remember that in 2018, separatists did launch the Amber coin, and there was an initial coin offering, which during that initial coin offering, they did raise millions of CFA, which was being used to advance their cause for cessation. So that's one of their key sources of funding. And there are multiple other sources which I've discovered in my course of reporting. And some of those sources are actually local sources.
Can you elaborate on these local sources, please?
Okay, I think one innovative way which the separatists have been using to raise funds is akin to what Joseph Kony's guys were doing in northern Uganda, where they were actually raising bees and selling honey. So if you go, for instance, to the southwest, we realize that some of these separatist groups are actually engaged in cash crop production. They actually run cocoa farms and is it the cocoa farms they seize from the or the rubber plantations that they some of the cocoa farms are actually farms which were abandoned by the fleeing population, and now the separatists have taken over. They do work in these farms, and at the end of the farming season, they have bags of cocoa which they can sell and raise money for that. And I want to believe that if you get in depth, you realize that there are other sources that, in terms of agriculture, maybe they are cultivating other things in other parts of the Northwest and Southwest, which they use to raise funds.
Lambert, you're from the Northwest region. You have been a victim of this terrorist, and we've seen other ways they're raising funds. I don't know if it is confirmed or not, that of abducting people and asking for ransom to use in the where they send. How is the situation like that you've witnessed?
Thank you very much, Moki. For close to 2 years, I have not been stable. I've just been managing because of what you know, and I wouldn't like you to call it terrorism when it comes to what is happening in the Northwest and the Southwest. No, it is war in quote. War because the competent authority have, in fact, I'm not saying that they have, it's like they have refused in intervening in a way that this nonsense can come to an end. I want to call it nonsense because the number of lives that are being lost on a daily basis, you cannot count, which is a shame to Cameroon. Some few years back, we used to say Cameroon a peaceful country. Now, I don't know whether it's a pieces country. A pieces. Now, you want to say the way the separatists, they function, it's, you know, they have equally meted taxes on, like, for example, farm produce that are coming out from, that are being harvested or that are being cultivated in the area. You pay a particular amount of money, which to me is not even significant because the way they are functioning, I want to suspect that there are so many people in the regime that are up to the task, that are technically funding them, and you will never know it.
How do they do it?
What I'm saying is, when they attack, for example, a brigade in corps and do away with the equipment there, do you want to think it was all about equipment and there was no money there? No. When they are, I don't want to say kidnapped, because it's their way of functioning. When they take you to their camp, like in 2000, on the 4th of October 2018, when I was taken to their camp for reporting contrary to what they wanted, because in Kumbu, in Northwest, in Bui in particular, You either stand for this or that. Now, I was taken to the camp. I paid a fine.
How much did you pay?
The amount cannot be disclosed. I don't want to disclose this. I paid a fine for not respecting the rules and regulations of the separatist fighters.
Okay, fine. So the source of funding you've said is they collect money from people going to the farms. They do controls along the road.
That's right.
And then they take fines from people like you who are abducted.
Exactly.
Others paid to by way of, ransom.
And equally, we want to understand that they have created groups. They move from door to door. They ask you for something, you give. They write a receipt and issue you. That's what they do to get in their money to do their things.
Barrister, we've got the various sources these people are having to fund the activities that we've had here now. But now the other ones may be difficult to handle because it's a situation of crisis. But we're finding out how possible, with all the control mechanisms that we have, money leaves from orange money to mobile money and finds itself in the camps, in the bushes down here, because I paid ransom to sponsor these activities.
Okay, I want to join issues with Mr. Kevin here. He said something very pertinent. You know, when I saw your topic, I said you certainly concluded that the separatists are a terrorist organization.
You started by defending terrorism, and some of them fall into what we said.
Yes, but even if it's like you want to say some of the acts committed by the soldiers of Cameroon, which fall under this, in line with terrorist definition or terrorism definition, you ascribe terrorism to the government. What I want you to understand is that up to this point we are talking, the separatists have not been ascribed the terrorism. Cameroon defines what they do as terrorism, that the world considers that as terrorism. I just want to give you an example. When we had a situation of Boko Haram, the world mobilized to fight Boko Haram because Boko Haram, even though some international analysts consider Boko Haram to be a kind of violent extremist, which I, to a certain extent, attribute to the separatists of the Northwest and Southwest as violent extremists, that is to be at least a bit hard on them. The world stood with Cameroon to fight Boko Haram. For now, the world considers what is happening in the Northwest and Southwest as a people fighting for good governance or for change of the livelihood. Now, coming back to sponsoring, you want to see that if we adopt the kind of mindset that has to do with fighting, sponsoring or funding in the light of international instruments and the instruments we have within Cameroon, you will see that we'll fall into serious problems because we live in a country that survives, most of us, our family members survive on remittances. And the percentage that remittances, contribute to the GDP of our countries in Africa.
To get it simpler, for people to understand, money sent by those in the diaspora back home, 100,000 here, 50,000 here, and so on.
You have statistics about 2018, we had about 150 billion that came to this country through remittances. And that it becomes very difficult if we accept that what is happening in Northwest and Southwest is terrorism, and that we want to control, for example, remittances, as a means of funding them, then this will affect a lot of livelihoods in the Northwest and Southwest. And with regard to legislation, we have a lot of it in Cameroon to fight, funding of terrorism. We have a 2016 CEMAC regulations that fight money laundering and terrorism. And that legislation created what we call ANIF, the Agency for the Investigation of Financial Crimes. And you must have had somebody who told you that my account has been freezed because they called me to go and justify the source of my income. So I think there is enough legislation, but with this one, since it's still considered an internal issue in Cameroon and that people have to survive, it becomes very difficult to think that with these little finances, remittances, and mobile money transfer, we are going to control inflows of resources to the separatists. Yes.
Now, as I said earlier on, people have been asking online why that the topic we've given gives an impression those in the Northwest and Southwest are terrorists. They're not yet terrorists.
Yes, that's
but
why I
if
say
we look at the UN definition that people take weapons, arms to fight against their own, then you may understand why Cameroon still calls them terrorists, because it's still in line with the definition you gave earlier on.
Now, that's why I say it's just Cameroon is giving it. It's simple. Give a dog a bad name to hang it. That's why the world has not adopted it. Thank you.
Now, I'll come to you on how to handle it scientifically speaking, but you followed what is said here. But I want to believe that even money that is sent at home could still be verified, could be investigated. Even an individual sends money that a family member is abducted, don't you think that the companies they use to transfer this money, could be called to question, called to book? I started with the example of Nigeria, where a lot of money was taken from MTN.
Yeah, Moki, before I answer that question, let me just cue in from what Barrister said and point out something when it comes to remittances. Realize that there is a trend which is actually growing, that most remittances that come into Cameroon do not pass through financial institutions at the moment. And this is because about 4 years back, with the balance of trade deficit, I know importers had difficulty sending out money out of Cameroon to maybe buy raw materials abroad. So this trend developed whereby people want to send remittances that inflow into Cameroon. They do what they call currency swap, which means that they look for, there are middlemen who look for, people who want to send money out of Cameroon, maybe to buy, let's example of China. You want to buy in China, because of our balance of payment deficit, you can't send out much money to the, let's say, MoneyGram or any other money transfer agency. So those middlemen get people who do the swap. Like there's somebody in China who wants to send remittances to Cameroon, and there's somebody in Cameroon who wants to buy. And
China.
And the swap is done, and it doesn't go to any regulatory authority, and it's a growing trend, and that is what can also be used. It may also fund certain type of crimes and also encourage money laundering because it doesn't go to official channels.
So my issue now raised.
Yeah, yeah. So about identification, I think it's a general problem. If you look at the report that was published last week by the Central Bank on the state of electronic payments in the country in 2020, you realize that they identified the aspect of identification as a very big problem. And even mobile companies in the country have been calling on the government to relax registration formalities, because we all know that it's very difficult to acquire a national identity card. It's very difficult. I did mine in 2019. Up to now, I'm not in possession of the original ID. And it keeps expiring. And when it expires, the mobile operator needs to remind you that you need to update your registration. And if these mobile operators were to be strict, I'm sure many people will be disconnected, and it will not be good business for them. So there's that laxity and all of that. So it's difficult. It's a very difficult situation. Which
so you mean that because people lack even the documents themselves that qualify them to send money, and there's a little bit of laxity, it also encourages this illegal flow of money.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Ivor, is it possible? Is it possible to be able to control this? I mean, scientifically speaking, I'm talking about the aspect of money that is sent. Can you investigate? How would you investigate money that is sent from A to B within the country, within Cameroon?
Edwin, if you listen to what everybody is saying, it means there are so many aspects of money transfer. As he said, you can transfer money without definitely going through a financial institution. Likewise, you can transfer money using a different currency that is crypto or a digital currency. So technically, for us, in the forensic milieu, what we do is this. We will identify who is sending the money, depending on the request upon investigation. Somebody sends money to somebody, definitely. Who is sending that money and why is the money for? If you look at back days, you will realize that they will ask, you are receiving this money, you are taking it from who? You need to fill up. Express Union did it, Western Union did it, and MTN and Orange, they are doing it when the amount reaches a certain amount. So these are some cyber security norms that we put in place. Now, depending on the request, we will identify points of investigation. When we identify these points of investigation, we will track digitally your communication, your transfer. If you go into banks like Orange, Eco Bank and other banks, there is what they call a money transfer threshold. It means if your amount of transfer reaches a certain amount, it calls for alert.
Can you give us, have you an idea on how much?
You see, as the barrister was saying, there is a norm. There is a norm legally known of how much you should travel with, for example, physically, how much you should travel with or transfer from one place to another is known. So from what you are saying, when there is an infraction or something like a problem, what happens is lawyers will notify our forensic center and would say, okay, this is what we suspect, because they don't have 100% evidence.
Let me just come in. You know, all of us have carried out transactions, and be it in banks, in mobile money transfer, you discover that when you are sending money, at a certain point, they ask you to put a reason for the money.
Exactly.
But at a certain point, too, you don't put a reason, or you can just write K. Okay. The money is transferred.
Good. The person, the company, the corporation that is managing that transaction, in the case of mobile money, MTN or Orange Money, Orange, or bank transaction, those companies have the responsibility to report to the Agency for Investigation of Financial Crimes when they suspect that the source of this money is doubtful. It doesn't matter what the amount is at times. And there have been situations where established companies or foreign organizations and associations carry out transactions regularly. At a certain point, the COBAC, comes with a need to warn the bank, to give justification because the proofs given are not good enough, and the bank will get back to these people.
I want to remind you that less than a month ago or so, COBAC came out with a report indicting some banks in Cameroon.
Absolutely. When the laid down rules are not respected, as I said, and if it's a creation of that the regulation within CEMAC sub-region, which means that you go to Congo, Gabon, and you have ANIF there. So if you don't follow the laid down rules, they will come after you, the bank. That is why I said earlier that financing of terrorism does not look at the small 500,000, 1,000, 100,000 sent out for remittances.
But there are reports that these people send the money to different people in smaller quantities. If you send 500,000 to 300 people, it's a lot of money.
Now,
Barrister,
that is undermining what terrorism is all about. Terrorism has to do with the use of heavy equipments, like what Boko Haram was doing. They were using machine guns and things like that. Heavy artillery is not like, these small things we see around. So what the legislation we have within CEMAC region is to prevent, and that's why they say for prevention of money laundering and terrorism. We do not yet have, apart from the Boko Haram bad situation we have not, and we have very strong legislation. We have the regulation on exchange the transactions you are doing. If you want to send money from dollars and into Cameroon, all of that you have to report. You have conditions to fulfill, and the bank has conditions to respect with regard to carrying out that transaction, sir.
I'm asking this question to all of you. I'll start with Barrister. Oh, you wanted to add to what he's saying?
Yes, Moki. Sometimes I don't even want to think that the various rules and regulations being put in place are being implemented. There are paperwork. Practically, what is happening? Do they implement what is written? That's where my problem sometimes is, because we are sometimes used to certain diplomatic language and write-ups that at the end of the day you want to go to the field. Nothing. I say nothing is happening.
Do you have an example of what
that has to do with human frailties and human weaknesses?
Do you have an example of what you're saying?
Corruption and others.
Because Barrister is talking about certain COBAC norms and rules and regulations. Yes. have we had any proper investigation to investigate just one single one to know who is sponsoring Boko Haram, for instance?
Let's not get there for now yet. Now, I wanted to pass this question to all of you. Please, we ask here, I know you have a problem with terrorism and separatists and so on, but let's call them separatists. Have they been outsmarting legislation and norms, Barrister?
It's a human phenomenon. Human beings create the instruments we use, the science, the laws, and all of that. And they are documented that don't do this. The guy will sit and calculate on how to outsmart this point. So it's a possibility. It's a possibility that they know how to go about it. My brother just talked about cryptocurrency, right? Now, what if the regulations are that let suspected money be reported, and the terrorist is aware of that? He's going to devise a means of avoiding that. Let me take, for instance, Moki, if we consider the separatists in the Northwest and Southwest as terrorists, for the purpose of my illustration, he's in Cameroon. He wants money to sponsor the war. Do you think that he will be comfortable getting the money from Cameroon, or just say, let me go across to Cross River State and you send the money that I collect? So that is it. Human beings are smart.
Okay.
They know how to get about those things.
I'm coming to you now.
Yes, Moki. I don't want to laugh because it's a very serious issue, and we are just praying that peace should just come. But do you think, since the start of this wahala in 2016, the same equipment and war guns that the separatists are using,
they're getting sophisticated every day?
Is it? Can you say the same guns they were shooting 2016 the same guns they are using now?
No, because they're buying more guns now, more money they raise and send to the country illegally with the weapons.
That when you go about those type of questions and research, you see that sometimes you want to ask yourself so many questions.
Now, I'm in the place. What is the impact to the economy and the security of these movements?
Yeah, I think the impact is huge. And one issue is that when it comes to, for example, let's talk about crypto, which Barrister mentioned. You realize that within the black zone, we have one central bank. There is actually no regulation when it concerns crypto. The member countries of CEMAC should start thinking of, because other countries are thinking of that.
Nigeria was the latest example.
Yeah, it was the latest example with the e-naira. So it's better to have, because blockchain is the future, so it's better to start putting in regulations or even at least guidelines surrounding cryptocurrency. So the bank has to take this move to try to make regulations around crypto. Nigeria started with the e-naira, which is a centralized cryptocurrency. The government can also do that. And if the government does that, it's going to maybe attract people to the currency, and people will be, let's say, less motivated to go to crypto, which is decentralized. Because crypto, which is decentralized, can easily breed those type of circulation of currency. And just to answer the question, I really think the separatists have been outsmarting the government on multiple forms.
But it says it's normal, because when there's the law, people go, it's natural for people to look at the way of. Now, exactly. Ivor, how can, we're moving to the second part of it, the question I'm asking now, especially you of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals. How can you be of help?
Okay, Edwin, we have been doing already. As you know, recently we had our board of directors. We created an office in Yaoundé for all forensic experts. We are going through awareness training that we propose to offer to every ministry in Cameroon. This training will enable in every ministry to have at least one person that is a forensic expert. Why do we say that? At times, you see, most of this money laundering, you don't know what it is. You receive money in your orange. So many people, when they receive money in their orange money, they pluck off their funds. You don't know who sent it. You don't know what it was destined for. The thing is their money. So we need to train people on what is digital money, what is digital currency. As he said, we are offering this training in our center. Now, to come back to your answer.
People are suffering from a situation now that they are using money from illegal money to arm arms. We will not talk about training now.
Let me come back again.
How can it be solved immediately?
How can it be solved immediately? We are proposing our services to the government in general to use us as these investigators. Because what is happening is these separatists, as you call it in quotes, have money. Where is this money from? Who is financing them? All these questions are being asked. Who should answer this question? As a layman, I would say, yes, it is true. But as a scientist, I would say it needs to call for investigation.
For how long will you keep investigating?
For now, my brother, what I would tell you is...
You have not been contacted by the government to investigate yet? That's what you're saying?
Not yet. So it should happen.
Just imagine that. Just imagine that you even investigate and then you trace the destination, and maybe the destination is somewhere in my enclave, Libya. How do you get the suspect?
Can you propose for the money to be blocked?
There are transactions.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. Taking too long? One thing. There is what we call the financial ecosystem in every country. That is for the government to know how money moves in its environment. So we have this physical money transferred from one person to another. You need to identify it and decide what it's used for. You have this crypto money. It's not like a blockchain is something we cannot do. We can train our youths that are in Buea. There are so many IT guys around. Train them on how to create this crypto to be parallel to what is already existing that the government cannot control. And coming back to what Barrister was saying, you must set up norms. If you don't set up norms, technology is coming and it's coming with a quick rate. It is going to overthrow our financial movement and you know what it is.
Barrister, I've seen you want to...
Yes,
I want to find out from you, where are the loopholes? Blaise says, if you found somebody doing that in the bushes of Lebelem, how would you go to get him? But many people are suspected of doing that in countries in Europe. What is difficult for the government of Cameroon? What are the challenges? I mean, informing the governments of this other country that this is what is happening and this person is the one involved from our investigation.
Now, the issue is, certainty. You just suspect. You need to prove.
Exactly.
And the time it takes to prove if truly what I suspected is true, it takes time. It takes time. And at the end of the day, you think that nothing is being done. Let me just take, as I said earlier, within CEMAC sub-region, we have a very robust legislation to handle that. And despite that, we have...
But I just want to indicate to the production team that we are discussing possible solutions. That is, can forensic science and legislation be solutions to this problem?
Yes, so my solution proposal to this would be, honestly, we should do everything to avoid violent extremism within our communities, within our countries. Because once we give opportunity for people to contest, for extremism to establish, there is no way. I said, human beings are the ones that drop and bring up these technologies and ideologies. They will always mutate. And so because they will mutate, it's advisable that we make sure we give a kind of conducive environment where people will not join some kind of extremism groups, either because of poverty, because of one thing or the other. And when we see things coming up, we should be proactive as much as possible to end them and not to rely on legislation and technology. It will not help us, and it will never help.
Now, I am coming to you now to end, to go out of this, to find out if you are called up to propose immediate solutions now to this.
Maybe we are not legal experts, so we don't know it, but there is a legislation in place on money laundering, trafficking, and crimes. It exists. What is happening today is we have a group of people.
Please, Moki, just a minute. Let me just say something before you continue. The guys operating with guns do not get the money and buy the guns in Cameroon.
Can you permit me to run?
They don't buy the guns in Cameroon with the money they receive.
Can you permit me to
That's
run?
why I said the solution is solving the problems to avoid this, because even if the money comes buy guns. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add this.
This is what I'm saying, right? We should not put it in a box and leave it in there. As Kevin said, the financing is not coming from, it must not come from the external world. No, it must not come from the third world. He was talking about cocoa, farming, Irish potato. Beans. So, is there any legislation that stops somebody from
selling beans?
That's it. So you are talking about.
But legislation does not permit you to invest money in
Of course, that's what we are heading to. And I want to answer your question to say, today, what is to be done is to create awareness. People should know that illegally invest my money. They should know what is illegal. Right? You say there are some separatists, others say they are not separatists. You say they are terrorists, others say they are not terrorists. So you need to make it clear. And that is why we are proposing, first thing, training, awareness, and tools. We have technical tools, as you are saying, that it takes time.
Stop it. Now,
take note, Moki. Take note, a key note that this issue of sponsoring separatist terrorism is a kind of juicy black business for some people.
No, what they call the war economy.
I just wish to add that we need to note that some of this money, which is used to fund the war in the Anglophone regions, so this money actually starts in shell companies in the US and in other jurisdictions where they permit for offshore investments and all of that. And these resources are used to buy arms which are sent back home. And on the questions you're asking, my take is that I think we are still very far from using forensic investigation and science to fight money laundering and illicit financing of activities, because we don't have the technical capacity. Okay, let's just imagine. Let's take a very common example. We are trying to launder money, maybe a bag of cash, and then you hold the cash and you give me, and we are caught. I don't think we have that forensic capacity to maybe take fingerprints and go maybe to the national ID system to match it.
Ivo, do you have the capacity?
I will not agree with you.
30 seconds. Ivo, do you have the capacity?
I will not agree with you. If you go today, the police, for example, is using forensic science. When there is a crime.
But it takes a long time.
Okay, gentlemen, what I have gathered from this discussion is that there's a lot of money going on sponsoring whether separatists or whatsoever in the northwest and southwest region, and that there are so many sources, from the food they see some people to sell, the animals they see to sell, from the money transfers, and so on. That is what is used in sponsoring it. And the money that's sent from outside, forensic scientists like Ivo Babila Nyamdi of the International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals says it is possible for them to investigate and bring them to book. We have barely 6 minutes to be together, and there's one important thing I want us to talk about. Is going to be regular on the show until we start the AFCON. We're moving right into AFCON now to talk about how ready, how set is Cameroon. Barrister, you've been watching, you've seen the Minister of State, Secretary General of the President of the Republic visiting infrastructure. What do you take as a message, the main message from these activities?
I think, to be honest, Cameroon has the infrastructure for the sports. You know, the infrastructures are quite there. We have good stadia. We watched them. We saw the inspection. We have good hotels and all of that. My only worry is our road infrastructure. Our roads are not the best, and that's where I have a reservation for the African Nations Cup. But I know the government has all the what it takes to be
less than 3 months.
Yes, well, for roads, honestly, I know that they'll certainly want to use alternatives like taking flights and all of that. With that, for roads, there is nothing we can do about it. We have bad roads. that I'm not optimistic about. But with the sport infrastructures, yes, we do have them, and we just we should commend the work that has been done, even though a lot of our money has been siphoned and put in people's pockets. That's typical of Cameroon.
Why you always saying, you are a man of law. When you say siphon, did you see them stealing the money? You saw them siphoning money? I'm sure investigation will be carried out and we'll know about it, but I'm asking. It's my duty too.
Mr. Moki, if they tell you that a stadium built somewhere for 100 millions, they took 150 millions in Cameroon, do you need to be a magician to know that 50 millions or billions entered somebody's pocket? No. We know, and we are Cameroonians, that it's gone into our how do I put it? DNA that once something is put on our table, we want to think first what will enter our pocket, and may God deliver us from that.
Thank you. How set is the country?
Yes, the country is a little bit set infrastructural wise, but the towns are very dirty. The city are very dirty. I walk through the city of Yaoundé, and I'm very embarrassed that this is Yaoundé, the capital city. Go to Mele, near the Gendarmerie Brigade. You will be sure you cannot eat there. And
do you eat on the streets?
When you are
restaurants are on the street.
I'm not saying I should eat on the street. When you are hungry, there are people who are selling food beside the garbage cans. Visitors, they have started coming in to secure their place because there will be no time for latecomers. Now, it is good. When you want to, papers are littered everywhere. The quarters are very dirty. And when we want to clean the city, we should not only clean the major routes. Get into the quarters. Somebody want to come and visit you where you are in your quarter, and you discover that the car cannot even get in there. There's a question mark.
But why is Milen dirty?
Milen is dirty because you know very well that the Hisakam officials, the Hisakam workers, those who are to keep the town clean, they are on strike. On strike because their salaries are not being paid for 3 months or so. And yesterday I got a private channel reporting that they have started work. It is good. But what will happen? Are they going to do that to make sure that the cities are clean the way some of us will like? Because we have our friends abroad who would like to come and say, hey, Mr. Lam, this is your country, and I will be embarrassed if I want to pass around Milen and see that we cannot even start at anywhere to take photos. It will be a shame. So let the cities be very clean.
Yeah, Moki, I haven't been keen much about on the preparations, but I think from the reports I've gotten, infrastructure-wise, we are far advanced. But one thing I think is that we have not really harnessed our potentials to catching on this big sports jamboree. We know beyond the sporting jamboree, there's a lot of activities that need to accompany the AFCON. I remember someone paying 50,000 during the AFCON in Gabon just to see the equator, which passes through Gabon, imaginary line. So we have not really harnessed our tourism potential. One other thing I think needs to be done at this point in time is communication. The communication subcommittee of the local organizing committee needs to start communicating much about the upcoming event. I think we are less than 2 months to the event. They need to start telling us how maybe foreign colleagues who are coming to Cameroon to cover are going to get accreditation to MINCOM and to come in and all of that. So there's need for heavy communication at this point in time.
And you, Ivo? There's no forensic in this one.
I'll come back to you again and say much has been said about the infrastructure. And my point is, what about the players? Are they ready? Are we going to win this AFCON this time around? So I think we should focus globally. And it is also an opportunity for the small businesses around to try to grow and get themselves known by all the strangers that are going to come to our country. And you can see for a certain generation, it is going to be their first AFCON. So,
and for some, another generation, their last.
I'm happy that my bakery is ready, and anybody who's
you like doing illegal publicity.
It's not illegal because this is a free, this national station, and I think that everybody is.
Even though I talk about what I said.
About my bakery is not
no, Mr. Lambert, please just.
I would like to say that players should be encouraged. Their dues should be paid on time. For certain embarrassment to occur, they may come here and you see that somebody gets into the field and another person drags the person out, and it causes a lot of confusion and the way we are. We cannot hold something and we don't keep it.
Thank you very much. Now I want to thank you very much, Ivo Babila Nyamti, who is a digital forensic of the International Institute of investigation professionals who says they can investigate all crimes if at all they're contacted by the government or by companies and individuals. Baka Ernest, barrister, solicitor, member of the Cameroon Bar Association, who thinks that to solve the crisis and these money issues, illegal financial flows, they should solve by the conflict itself, and every other thing will be arranged. Amanda Blaise Atabong, freelance reporter and editor, I want to thank you for coming, and Lambert Kevin, who was reporting for Canal 2 in Kumbu, but is no longer there because he was harassed and chased by separatist fighters or suspected separatists. I want to thank you very much for coming. And as we end today's edition of Press Hour on CRTV, I am Moki Edwin Kinzeka Njaundi. Thank you for watching.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.